Check.
You're all good. Don't let this scare you off microphones.
Right. Check. Check.
But my question is for you.
Okay.
How did you get the voice of Uraraka?
Uraraka?
Yes.
How did I find the voice, or how did I?
How did you find the voice range for it, and how did it come to be? And
Okay. Well, so he's asking about Ochako, another little tiny show in the universe of anime. I know.
It's all good. It's all right.
So again, similar to what Vic said, I am nothing but honored. And something that needs to be said is we owe every good thing to the kind people who cast us.
Yeah.
This lady right here was a part of, that's why I'm in the show. More of that. Yeah, more of that. A little of that. So that is how that happened. But actually, I approached her because I was not auditioning for broadcast things because I don't live in Dallas, I live in Houston, and they're 4.5 hours apart. But I heard about that show, and I went and said, hey, can I read for this one? And Colleen was like, yes, you may. And anyway,
And then I closed the door and I was like, it's funny how she thought she wasn't going to be in it. She didn't ask.
So it was literally like a blessing, and I'll tell you, every single person in My Hero, similar to Full Metal, is just so honored to be a part of something so great. We're so proud of it, and we're just great. It's great to share it with everybody. I love everybody in costume. It's just so great.
everybody has been saying about the villain in you, and Justin Brunner didn't even know what the hell I was talking about.
Oh,
Which,
Justin.
yeah.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Because my grandmother passed away 6 years ago. The chain, however, was because I got this from my dad because he,
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. Thank you.
because I actually remember my grandmother.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm gonna get that on video.
Yeah. Hey there, come on here.
So my question is, what was the journey like from when you first started your career to where you are now?
Whoa.
Fun question.
You go, somebody.
Journey from the beginning to now. I was lucky enough to get in to the industry riding the coattails of Laura Bailey, who was a friend of mine, and she got me in the door. And I was lucky enough to get in right as things were just starting to really ramp up. There was a long period before that where it had been Dragon Ball Z, and there was 1 or 2 shows going on at the studio at all times. There were very few women in the building. And then right as I was getting in, it was when they were expanding their horizons and they were getting a lot more anime in the door. Nothing like it is today, but and so they were starting to need more people. So when I showed up, it was in the midst of a desperate need for women, which made it much easier to get in the door, much easier to get lead roles quickly. And then when I was on episode 16 of my first series, Kitty Grade, Justin Cook became a producer, and he needed somebody to become the director of the show, and I was the one who knew the show best because I was the lead. So I became a director of the first series that I was ever in. And then the next series that I directed was Fullmetal Alchemist. And I started writing and producing at the same time, and quickly went crazy and nobody liked me. I was very mean when I was working 16-hour days. But yeah, so that, and then I just stayed at Funimation because it's a vortex and you can never get out.
She's not lying.
She's not lying.
Chris and I started about the same time. We were living in Houston, and there was this tiny little place in Houston called ADV Films. And just a bunch of nerds who loved anime and wanted to dub it into English. I mean, it wasn't a big fancy, high-tech facility.
No.
It was just this tiny little place. And And John Grimion,
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's
who
right.
is another great actor who
Yeah.
lives in Houston, encouraged me to go and audition. And I went and auditioned and really didn't know anything about what they were doing or what they did with this once they were finished recording it. I assume they sold it. I mean, they must to be able to make more, right? So the first show I was in was Vega in Street Fighter 2.
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was just a one-time thing. I thought it was one weird little random thing I got to do. And then they started getting more shows and another show and another show. And I was just really blessed. I mean, really, really lucky to be in on the ground floor right before anime really kind of took off. So yes, I'm very, very grateful for the opportunities that have come my way.
Yeah, and mine is similar to Colleen's. I just happened to hit ADV right when they began all of this stuff. I mean, we had a Fullmetal Panic a panel yesterday, and that was my first lead.
Yeah.
And I did not know what I was doing. I mean, I didn't think I was good at this at all, and could assuredly never have foreseen all of this happening. So it's been 18 years-ish? It's worked out. You know, it's been pretty good.
You know, Lucy, you're the voice of my childhood. Sorry. Go ahead, Chris, sorry.
Oh, you can blame a lovely lady named Jessica Calvello, who I was doing a piece of theater with, and she's like, you need to go audition for these people in Houston called ADV Films. I'm like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. But I did, and it is very similar to Vic, and I went and I auditioned. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just disoriented and flabbergasted by the audition process. Like, well, I'm never getting used for anything. And they called me in like 2 weeks later to do a part, funnily enough, called Soldier B, in a show called Master of Moskiton the Vampire, where I said in an English accent, oh, it's a mummy, and I screamed and died. And I thought that was the beginning and the end of my illustrious voiceover career. But then I started getting episode characters and lead characters, and it's been this 19, 20-year journey of madness. And what Vic said is so right. There are lots of people who do voiceover for a living their entire lives, and they never do anything like iconic. They make a living and they're happy and they're fulfilled, but to be in any show that's remembered by a huge number of people for many years is an insane gift. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You guys are all Houstonites. I'm up here with all Houstonites.
All right, I think we found a professional to take care of this, so I think this might work now. Check.
Heyo.
Way to go, Steven.
Check. Sounds like we're good.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Saving the day.
I would not leave it up.
Hello.
Yes, sir. What's your question?
I asked this yesterday at the Fullmetal Panic panel, but I was wondering, what are your favorite traits in a director as an actor?
Oh, Colleen.
Yeah. I think we did this on Friday, so forgive me if you're hearing repeats of anything. But what I want in a director is not for the director to necessarily know what they want when I come in the room. I mean, if they do, that's great, but I don't need them to. But I do need them to know what they want when they hear it. And that's something that I struggled with early on, and as a director, and have tried to learn to get better at. And I think it's a hard thing to do, and you have to have some sense of confidence in yourself as a director to be able to say, yeah, that's it, moving on. And it saves everybody a lot of grief, and usually it makes the product a lot better, because we're not dithering too much. So that's what I would consider a good director, and what I strived to learn the most as a director.
Last fall, I got to direct a show called Junie Tyson, and Colleen actually played one of the leads, and it was so much fun. What a great show, and I really enjoyed it.
You were a great director.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much coming from you. Appreciate it. And I think for me, I've always felt, and I don't know how you guys feel, but I've always felt that the best directors are usually actors. I don't know if that's the case across the board, but in my experience, I found that the people who are also actors, who have an understanding of the other side of the equation, are better able to communicate in a language that the actor gets. And so I've always really enjoyed working with directors who themselves are actors as well. But yeah, that's been my experience, and it was a real pleasure to do the directing that I was able to do.
Yeah, I would say I mean, I'll work with anybody, and the goal, of course, is to make every director feel like that you're easy and that you're a joy to work with. That's the whole point. And sometimes you have to act like you have to act to get there. But I really like working with people who have a certain trust in you. There's a collaboration that hopefully I'm hired because I know what I'm doing, and shouldn't need a whole lot of micromanaging. But if they feel the need to do that, I'm here for you. I can do it.
Yeah, I pretty much dittos to all of that. I like a director who's a nudger and an editor rather than a micromanager. I probably would have said something different 20 years ago. You know, I may have needed a lot of coddling, I don't know. But in the past 5 to 10 years of my career, I think the more of a body of work that you've accrued and experience you have, you want a director who trusts you and who can just sort of steer the ship a little bit. Rather, you know what I mean? So yeah, someone who speaks the actor's language is invaluable. It's wonderful. Yeah.
And if you cast the show right as a director, there is just nudging to do. And I think that is sometimes, I'm going to add that to a hope from a director, is sometimes I think they reach really hard for the cast. They want to try to expand horizons and to change, to alter the way that it's done. And while that can be successful, sometimes it delays the process, or sometimes it inhibits the process.
Yep.
And so I like it when people cast the right person for the part.
Yeah,
Because then you can trust.
that's right.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Mine's a straightforward question. How was your time here at SacAnime? Did we treat you well?
Oh my
Did we
gosh.
treat you
Yes.
as you treated us?
Treating us well is an extreme understatement.
Yeah.
This is a lovely show. I mean, it is so well run and so organized from our perspective.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
When you can have an easy, great time and the weather's this bad outside, then you know the show is good. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's
Have you
great.
guys been to this show?
No.
Not since 2006.
Oh wow. I think I've been here for almost every year for
Wow.
a long time.
Oh wow.
And I mean, I remember. Well, you're very kind. At least you're not. Oh God, him again. You know, thank you. But I mean, even way back in the Scottish Rite Center. I have such fond memories of playing tag football with Travis Willingham and a bunch of fans out in the grass on the side of the Scottish Rite Center. And you know what? This show, really, the people that run the show and you that attend the show, it's such a wonderful. We do a lot of events of all varying degrees of organization and efficiency, and this is definitely one of the best. So thank you guys for your being a part of it.
Yeah. We would all love to come back.
Thank you for coming, and I hope to see you guys again.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Oh!
It's okay.
Yes, girl.
It's all right.
Mic drop.
Mic
I
stand
have
drop.
a question. All you guys can answer. I just want to know, from the original series of Fullmetal Alchemist to Brotherhood, what would be your most memorable or most favorite moment as your characters?
Oh man.
Well, mine is easy. I think Wrath's death was awesome. I mean, not awesome to voice, that was really hard, but what a wonderful way to go out.
Hope you've seen it.
I hope, oh, God bless it. Yes, I hope you've seen it. Dang it!
You've had 14 years.
I mean, that's right. I'm just saying there's a lovely tango with gluttony.
I would say the same. In the original, it was the final monologue that he utters, which Colleen had to soldier me through at almost 1 in the morning, I remember, one very late night.
That was back when I was mean.
Well, what's interesting too is that Mike first directed me. Mike directed me for the easy parts, and then Colleen directed my death. But the death in Brotherhood, it's epic, right? Yes. And it's more, the monologue isn't as cool, but the death is way more epic. Those are my thoughts. By the way, Greed dies, so. Just saying.
It would be impossible to pick one thing, you know? I mean, with something so expansive and to work on it for so long, it's impossible to pick one thing. I loved so many things about that show. I loved the relationship between the brothers. I loved Aaron from the original. He was the little brother I never had. And I mean, I loved him to death. We would do shows together, and here's this adorable 12-year-old kid, you know, sitting beside me, and just loved him and was so proud of the first show, and sad that it just kind of stopped. But then when Brotherhood came out, it was such a wonderful privilege to be able to come back to it and have new adventures and tell the story in a different way. I love the final scene that Ed does with Winry. Yeah, I mean, see, as soon as you start talking about one, you think of 10 others.
Yeah.
So it was just an overall wonderful experience. Wonderful.
It's really hard to pick. I think it was, I knew that Riza was an amazing character in the first one, and everybody really seems to attach to her. She speaks to a lot of people, but she had so little to do. And then Brotherhood came around, and it was going to go more along the lines of the manga, and I was like, oh. So she's going to get a backstory, if you get my drift. And I kind of reveled in every difference. Not because the first one, I actually prefer the first one. I know everybody else likes the Brotherhood, whatever. I like both. I actually prefer the first one, but I reveled in the differences. So in Brotherhood, anytime she got to do something that I hadn't seen before, anytime there were moments where you got a little bit more of her character, or a little bit more of the drama that happens. I loved all of that. And the thing on the stairs.
I'm with you. I love the first one. People always ask, which one do you prefer? I know most people like Brotherhood the best. It's a great story. It's much darker and more intense, but you always have a special place in your heart for the original, you know? Your first love, you know? You go on to love people, you know, just like with love. You meet somebody in high school, and it's your first love, and you'll go on to meet other people and fall in love, and you may end up even marrying somebody else, but there will always be that special place in your heart for your first love. And I had probably done 40 or 50 anime series by the time Fullmetal came along, and nothing ever moved me the way Fullmetal did. I fell in love with that show.
I think, like I do, that it might be the music.
Maybe.
The music in the original and the artwork in the original are so beautiful that nothing has compared since.
You know, the original just kind of fired on all cylinders, you know? Like every element of production.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it, when you make a show, you have 10 different elements of that production. There's story, there's art, there's music, there's animation, there's voice acting, there's mixing, there's so many elements. And if any one of them falls short, it diminishes the overall production a little bit, just a little bit. But something like the original Fullmetal, for me, was just, everything was so beautiful. It just kind of hit on all cylinders, you know? And so, I'm the same way. I just have a real special place in my heart for the original.
Thank you.
It's okay. I just want to quickly start by saying how dear to my heart Fullmetal Alchemist is. It was one of the very first animes that my father showed to me, and it has such a place in my heart. You right there, father. It has such a special place in my heart, and so I really think
And there it is.
I love it. How old are you?
Almost 18.
All right. Yeah.
Take it. Take it.
That's not bad.
Awesome.
And so my question for you, I asked you this yesterday, and it's just such an important question for me because I want to get into voice acting, and I'd love to hear from people who are, a part of the field, have experienced it. What is the best tip that you could give for someone who would like to, get into this field, and what is something that helped you during the beginning to get you to who you are and where you are now?
Yeah.
You guys want to start?
You want to start?
It's just there's so much. I'll try to be Reader's Digest about it. Like I'll try to edit. I guess the most important thing first you said, just be really, really passionate about acting. Have a love of storytelling and the love of being able to take two-dimensional words on a page and lift them up and make them sound interesting in 3 dimensions. And there's 10 trillion ways to do that. Okay, that's the first thing I would say. Rather than being interested in imitating voices or making funny voices, all that's fun and it's a cool, fun hobby, but it's not going to get you to a place of maybe voice acting excellence or something where you're a great actor. And then when you're starting out, what gets you, what was the second part, sort of?
What was something that helped you when, starting out, that helped you to who you are now?
Oh gosh, I mean, my theater background helped me a lot, but you know what I think the most important thing is in general that I've just over now a 20-year career, be hopeful and optimistic as much as you can, because there's going to be so many forces and circumstances that want you to be negative and to throw in the towel and to hate your life and say, forget it, screw this, it's not going to work, everything is depressing and I'm poor, or whatever, you're going to go through hard times. So having a lot of hope and even sometimes ridiculous hope and optimism, I think helps a lot. Yeah.
That's really good. I think along with that, one of the things that helps is, so we could not have seen down the road to here.
Ugh, yeah.
So there was no, my frame of mind when I was first starting as a professional actor was not that I would end up anywhere like this. It was to make a living acting. And so I had day jobs, and I took day jobs that would support my acting, that were flexible enough that I could still go audition, that I could still keep my agent. And so I just started as an actor, kind of putting little blocks in place to get to do what I wanted to do. And it teaches you resilience. It helps if you have a good group of people around you that support you. It helps if your eggs aren't all in one basket. Like if I put all of my eggs in anime voice acting a long time ago, I actually wouldn't be here. Because the work comes and goes. Even us who are very successful, the work comes and goes. And so most of the people that you see here have many eggs in our basket. We do audiobooks, we do commercial work. Some of us have day jobs on the side or whatever. We have a lot of different things that we do. And being an actor, getting the stuff, getting an agent and that stuff is what sort of helps you do that.
Yes. What they said.
Those things.
I've come to, like I mentioned yesterday when you asked that question in my panel, I've come to agree so strongly. And I used to say there are only 2 things, acting experience and location.
Right.
And then I added a third thing, and I told you yesterday, is tenacity, is not giving up easy. There are 10,000 people behind you who are probably more talented than you. You know what I mean? But it's going to be who gives up, and who's willing to just continue to knock on doors and just try and try. People that don't get discouraged easily are going to be the people that end up excelling at almost anything, I think.
And I can't lean enough on what Lucy said about putting your eggs in one basket. We don't do one thing. If you say you're going to be an anime voice actor, you're not.
Right.
If you say you want to be an actor, even if you say you want to be a voice actor, that's a problem. If you say you want to be an actor, you can be an actor. Yeah, go find ways to act. Be in theater, be in student films. Find ways to act. Mm-hmm. And then what is important is that you are doing that. Whether or not you're making money off of it is a different thing. You can find ways all the time to make money in the industry. If what you love is the entertainment industry, there are 1,000,001 ways to make money in the entertainment industry. I'm a producer. There are writers. There are PAs. There are grips. Cameramen, anything that you can do to be around the creative process counts. That's you making what you love for your career. And as much as you get to act along the way, fantastic. And so really the people who succeed are the people who say yes to opportunities.
Yes.
Not naked opportunities, don't have to say yes to everything.
That is
But
an
yes.
important point, yes.
If you take us all back far enough, we started acting because we loved acting.
Right.
Not because for 1 minute we thought, I'm gonna make money, I'm gonna sign autographs.
I didn't know anybody who was an actor for their living.
Exactly.
I don't know if I,
They just started
when I was
because
young.
they loved
They
it.
liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they liked
Yeah.
doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi.
So I just want to say, Fullmetal Alchemist was the very first anime I ever watched, and so I want to say thank you for just being part of it. It was also the first cosplay I ever did, so which just kind of spiraled.
As it does. As good things do. That's right.
But my question is, you guys have done so many, you've voiced so many characters for animes. What's a character that you really love from an anime that's not as well known?
That we do, that we voice. I'm going to say Momiji in Good Luck Girl. More people to watch that. She's basically Bugs Bunny, which is how Joel pitched it to me when I was auditioning for it. And that made me want it so badly that I insisted that we stop the auditions so I could go out and study harder for it. And I would play that character for the rest of my life if I could.
Wow, that's a tough question. Did any characters come to mind? Do any characters for either of you?
Well, Duck and Princess Tutu in Princess Tutu is one of my all-time favorites. All time. That was my first favorite show.
I have a very strong love for Fakir in Princess Tutu. And, yeah. And as far as villains go, I wish more people knew about Graham Spector in Bakano. I think Bakano is a gorgeous, amazing show, and I think that villain is insane. And so those are my two big ones, I think.
I don't know. I did a show for Joel as well, Joel McDonald, called Level E. And it was really a fun character. I don't think as many people got to see that show, but it was a lot of fun to play Prince Baka. So if you know any Japanese, you know. He must not be a very smart guy, basically. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey. Yeah.
TV star. Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Sean. I'm from a company called Unlocked. We're live streaming this right now to our app. It focuses on anime and voice acting, pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
So we're live right now, and one of the users, officially Tatiana, wants to know if you could change characters on the show, who would you change?
On Full Metal?
Yeah.
If we could play another character
Yeah.
besides our own?
Yeah.
Zumi.
Oh,
She
you'd
spoke
be
to me
great.
the whole series. The whole series, I was like, yeah, you're my sister.
Honestly, I think...
Looks like I would not switch with anybody.
I know, yeah. It's kind of hard, villain-wise, to top Greed, I think, but because what a funky character this is, and a dear crazy friend of mine plays this character, and this character is such a mystery. Envy, I think, would be really interesting. Yeah.
Yes, I think Winry's wonderful.
Yeah.
She's also lust.
I mean,
Laura was so good.
Oh my
Laura
God.
was...
Yes.
Laura was so good.
Yes.
Job.
What about you?
I'm gonna go with Auntie Panaco. I could do. Edward, drink your milk.
Old man on the side of the road.
I'm gunning for that old man on the side of the road, right? I will play him.
All right, well, thank you. Also want to add, I've never seen the show, but now I know who all died, so thank you.
Dude, I hope you get out of this room alive.
I was going to say the same thing. I've never seen
Get
it.
And hello to all our unlocked friends on the live stream. Yes.
Hello.
Hello. put your
Fine.
character up against another character from a show you voice, into another anime.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would take Riza, and I would put her in Fairy Tale because she and Urza are basically the same person, and they need more Urzas in that world.
I would put Edward into Oran High School because I would love to see Tamaki try to teach Edward Elric to be a host. I think that would be hilarious.
I would put Wrath in Oran High School. Pretty sure he's lacking sweets, and that is at the root of many issues. Can you just see it? Yep. And he'd be like, Wrath! Oh! You just need some cake, friend.
I would put Greed post-death into the world of ghost stories.
Ghost stories.
Can I say though, Greed would make an excellent precept of death in My Hero. For those who know anything about the upcoming season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of Hawkeye,
Hi.
So, this might be a little bit weird because, well, you might be a bit disappointed in me because I've seen 2 whole anime, My Hero Academia and Brotherhood. So, this might limit the question a bit, but my question was, of all the of the characters you've played, what was your favorite part about them? Like, just the characters themselves, I guess.
Of the ones that we play in this show,
Yes.
what was our favorite aspect of them?
Yes.
Greed was my first villain. I had played like 40 or 50 17-year-old pretty boy mech pilots. So you kind of run out of stuff to do there. And Mike McFarlane was like, I think you'd be great as this guy. I'm like, what? He's over 17 and mean. So yeah, that was my favorite. He was my first major villain.
I think Wrath was, because he comes in in the middle of the series, and his arc is so tragic, and it's so sad. When he's discovered he's just feral, and then he has a brief moment as a little boy where he's just, play with me, everyone's dead, and whatever. And then he eats the red rocks, and he is so bitter and hurt at the root because he was abandoned and all of these things. And really, he just wants a family. So I loved him. I loved him for that. And when my memory of him is, because it was so much screaming with limbs being torn asunder and all these things. But at the root of it, I remember always feeling so lucky to get to be a part of the show and to play someone like him that I thought was such an interesting and sad character who ultimately sacrificed himself, and was brought full circle.
I guess I have to see the original then.
Brought full circle? That's right. That's right. Yes. Brought full circle.
Who ultimately sacrificed himself.
It has been years. Okay, whatever.
have you ever made anything up that didn't happen in the show?
Yes,
for people that wait, I didn't see that part. And they get all freaked out that they missed something,
Oh, that's awesome. Like when he was struggling to get out of the go-go cave.
Right. That was a great scene.
If Riza hadn't been crowned queen, I don't think she could have saved him.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I like the whole Greed and Lust Tea Party episode. It's lost to the ages.
Man, that homunculus hot spring.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
That was my name on Grindr for a couple of years. Homunculus Hot Springs.
I hope somebody is writing these things down. Try.
Oh, there are only 50 different video cameras rolling right now. I think we'll have a hard time finding that. What I loved about Ed was that he was the hero, but he was a flawed hero. He was a very flawed hero. I think what I loved the most about his character was, honestly, was his relationship with his brother. His love, their love for each other, and through so much loss, you know? Dad takes off when you're young, and I mean, I even related to that personally, and I know a lot of people have. So then there's that bitterness and sadness and loss, and then your mom, you know, gets ill and passes, and then, you know, you and your brother are so desperate to try to bring her back that you do something really dumb, and you lose your only remaining family member, you know? And so there's so much loss, and yet the two of them kind of stick together and keep pushing forward. And I've gotten to meet so many fans who talk about, like, literally, they want you to write one thing on a picture or on a poster. It's keep moving forward, you know? You got a good set of legs, Rose, you should get up and use them, you know? And that idea, just that germ of an idea, is such a powerful thought that no matter what hits you, you know, no matter what knocks you down, you've got the power to get back up and move forward. And I really appreciated that part of the character a lot.
I liked Riza. I just love.
Hello.
Hello.
So earlier you spoke about resilience and not having all of your eggs in one basket. So I'm curious, how do you choose what to say yes to? And then because there are so many options, how do you find a balance between your professional life and your personal life?
Oh God,
That is a really,
Wow.
really good question.
that is super difficult.
Wow. That is a question, first of all, that doesn't have an answer. And secondly, that you will be coming up with the answer to for the rest of your life. Because that is the reason that at the beginning of my career, I was saying yes to everything. Because I didn't think it was ever going to be safe. When I quit waiting tables, it was a big deal. They had to basically fire me. They were like, Colleen, go. You're good. Go. You don't work here anymore. Because I would come in and I would ask who could take my shift every single day because I needed to go act at Funimation. And it took them months of me doing that before they were like, you don't work here. And I had to realize, okay, I'm secure in my acting. And then I started directing, and then I started writing, and then I started producing, and then I was line producing, and then I was doing all of it at once. And I was losing relationships because of it, because I had no ability to say no to work because I was so terrified it was going to dry up. So that's stage one. And then stage two is figuring out what part of that you can trim it down to, and having faith in your career. And then the next stage is when that stagnates a little bit, trying to figure out how to expand that horizon and how to start to say yes to things again, because you don't want to be doing just the one thing all the time for the rest of your life. And you will figure that out, and every stage you're going to doubt your decision.
That's a bit of a relief, I must say.
Yeah, I don't think there's any one answer for every person. Each person's life and each person's, the river of each person's life takes them in different twists and turns. And what may be a yes for you may be a no for me, or what may be a yes for Colleen may be a no for Luci. Each person has to kind of, honestly, I know this is kind of a lame answer, but you just got to feel your way. You just got to, you got to feel your way through it. And you'll stumble and fall. You'll make a mistake. You'll make a wrong turn, and then you do your best to kind of right it and come back to where you think you should be. And, trust your own instincts and your feelings, and each person has to kind of find it for themselves, I think.
What they said. That's the hardest thing, right? And as we get older, the things to say yes to become different. It's always changing. The basket's always changing. That's part of the thing too. That's why you have so many different things in it, because they're gonna leave. And it doesn't really serve you to mourn them. No. You kind of have to just get on with it. I know that, and my life changed a lot when I had kids. It altered everything. And that's why for 5 years I didn't go to conventions anymore. It was too hard. to juggle all of that with work and being present for my family and the travel of that, I had to say no for a while. But something I'm a big believer in is that things will work out. And when the opportunities are meant to come, you know, generally the door will open again at some point. It may be in a different way. But this is here, like this is still here for me, all these years later. And it's a joy. And if, you know, like Colleen said, saying yes and saying no, it comes as you get older and really have more confidence in yourself. Where you go, if I say no to that, I am comfortable with that door closing if it does. Right? I'm confident in that. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard. But like we said, having a basket with different things in it will save you. We saw a company we worked for implode.
Yeah.
And a lot of people be very hurt because they had their eggs in that one basket. And I think it affected us to the point that we will not do that. You know, and that's what you always have to think about. And it's not just acting anymore. In the economy in the last 10 years, I think everybody has learned that lesson.
Yeah.
Right? Where you just can't guarantee that something is always going to be there.
Yeah, there's no road to mastery with that. I think something that's really interesting that speaks to this a little bit is last year, Harry Dean Stanton made a movie with David Lynch. And right after he finished shooting it, he died. And he was 91. And he said after he finished shooting that film that he finally made the movie he was trying to make his entire life, his entire career. And this was a man who didn't make his first big Hollywood film until he was in his mid-40s. And everyone's on such a different path. And the thing I've discovered choosing me as a career is that we are all eternal children. And we're all, no matter how old or mature or experienced we are, we're all groping our way around in the dark a lot of the time. And yeah, you have to look for open doors and you have to stay positive, and it's everything Dave said along with that. Yeah.
You know, I want to add one thing. You know what? I think you can kind of, I'm not talking very well, you can kind of boil it all down to the two things you can't do, which are look at the past and regret having lost something because you said yes or no to something else, because it doesn't do you any good. And you can't spend all of your time looking at something else and wishing you were there when it's not an option that's in front of you. So staying present with the choice that you have and saying yes or no to the choices that you have is all you can do. And if you're focusing on one or the other thing, then you're not gonna be successful where you are.
Yeah.
Thank you. Such a good question. That's so good.
I would like to strike number 5 from the rules.
Yes.
Yes.
We will allow the philosophical.
By the way, we got a 10, so yeah.
A 10
minutes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, I'll be
Hi.
quick. My question is, what was the most difficult part about playing your character in Fullmetal Alchemist?
Oh, I mean, the most difficult was that final session I had on the original. I mean, it was brutal. And Colleen, I mean, to her credit, I will say the first time I did the vomiting of the red rocks and everything, and I thought I was such a boss, I looked up and she was laughing. And she said...
I was mean.
She goes, I'm so sorry, you just sound like a drunken frat boy after a bad bender, and it's not really working for me. You need to do the whole thing again. And I did, and I have to admit, it comes across very effectively. But that was at the time, that was the most difficult thing I'd ever done, VO-wise. Yeah.
I will similarly say, it was a session I had with Mike McFarland, because back in those days, we would go up and we would work all day long.
Yeah.
We would drive up and we would work from 10 to 10. And it was a limbs ripping session. And, you know, there are flaps to try to hit. And while you're doing all this screaming and whatnot, and after this particularly strenuous take, we stopped and I looked out with my, hoping that he would be like, you did it!
Yeah.
And he goes, almost. Almost. And he goes, but I did feel like I heard bits of your vocal cords going thunk, thunk, thunk against the plexiglass. That's what I remember. Almost.
That's nicer than laughing.
Well, it was like very late at night and we were all punch drunk. It was just like, we were very sleep deprived at that point. The engineer was laughing too, honestly. So, apparently I sounded bad. So.
I don't really know what the answer to this would be for me, except to say that I had a weird experience before we even started recording Full Metal. I started getting emails from fans saying, "Hey, hi Vic, just heard you got cast in Fullmetal Alchemist. Don't screw it up!" And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I had never gotten any kind of a, before you even started. And I realized suddenly, this is like, a lot of people really love this show.
Yeah.
And I was really struck by the, oh my God, it has to be good. It has to be the best it can be. And so, I was always like really worried about making it as good as it could possibly be, because I knew that a lot of people, were really enjoyed the original and the Japanese, and were hoping it was going to be really good. So that was something just in general that I kind of carried through the whole thing, was please, and Colleen and Mike are both such great directors, they weren't going to let it be bad, obviously. But it was like, please don't, in my back of my mind, I'm like, please don't let me do something that's not good. Please don't let something that's not the best slide. And fortunately, the directors that were in charge made sure that didn't happen.
The whole process, at that time I was, like they said, 10 to 10. I would direct from 10 to 6, and then I would act from 6 to 10, and then I'd go home and I'd write and produce. So I remember it as being a very trying time. But I think part of it was that I was playing two characters, and I was trying really hard to keep the voices separate. Rose and Riza at the time were a lot closer together in my vocal range because I just didn't have the low, access to the low. Now I'm much older, so when we went back for Brotherhood, I was like, I got this. But yeah, so keeping the differentiation, is that right?
Yeah.
Was difficult. Let's try to get the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, we got a 5-minute warning. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you.
Hey, don't worry, my question's quick. So, if your character had a theme song, like a contemporary song that was not part of the show, what would it be?
Oh,
That is so hard.
It's not that contemporary, but it would be Queen's I Want It All. Mine was admittedly very easy, I have to say.
The only thing that comes to mind, do you remember the show with Millionaire, How to Be a Millionaire? No.
Who Wants to Be a
Who Wants to Be?
Millionaire?
Is that it?
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Is that in India? Yeah. And
Oh, yes.
Slumdog Millionaire. And there's a song in it where there's the gunshots. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't know what else they're saying, but then there's the bang, bang, bang.
Yep. Yep.
Several come to mind. There was a song years ago called Short People. Peter Gabriel did one called Big Time. I think I would love that song. But if I were going to be serious, I'd probably go with Journey and Don't Stop Believing. I mean, because why not? I mean, anybody, that's a great song.
That is the best. Mine is Wistful. It's Wistful. It's our house is a very, very, very fine house. Like, right? Poor Raph. I know. All right, last one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
And the martini question, the final question.
Yes. What is your favorite voice line from Fullmetal Alchemist, from both shows in general?
Favorite line?
You know your flame attack is useless in the rain.
I can't recreate it because it's screamed at the top of his lungs, and I don't know it verbatim, but it's when he wishes that he gives dyspepsia to the person who drinks him. That whole monologue in the fire pit is really my favorite, and I'm not going to do it right now. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I really do like it when he's just a regular little boy before all of the madness happens, and it's so weird because he's just like running around and he catches that mouse. And he's just like, everyone's dead. Do you want to play with me? Come on, let's go play. What's the matter? Has his
Plus
moment.
tiny mini skirts.
Oh yes, can't beat that. My favorite funny one is when Ed was about to do the mock battle with Mustang, and he's out on the battlefield with Al, and he's like, "Today's a great day, Al. The day I get to punch Mustang in the face and get some damn respect." And Al's like, "What's your strategy, brother?" "I told you, a fist in his face!" But my serious favorite is the End of Brotherhood, is that last monologue that Ed does, where he talks about if you can rise above it and endure the pain, you know, you'll have a heart strong enough to overcome any obstacle. A heart made full metal. Thank you guys, thanks for coming.
We're going to actually ask you to hold the room for just a moment so we can get everybody out of here. So if everyone can take their seats for just a second. I know it's a big room and we got a lot of things we want to do.